All right, I think we are live here. We are back with the Awesemo Odds Betting Show. I am your host, Jordan Frank. I am joined, as I always am, on these Friday mornings for me, early afternoon for you, my man Ben Raza. Ben, we missed you last week. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I was in Florida, as everybody knows, playing a little golf. That was fun. I took a hiatus. Excited to be back though. Perfect time for me to go because now we're underway. It is March. Got a lot to talk about in the March Madness world, NBA, PGA, normal stuff going on.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since we were last on the air. The most exciting thing that we can announce is that the calendar has flipped. It is March. It is probably I think both of our favorite times of year. There's just so much going on. Uh, I know you talked about the DFS Open on a few of the shows. I don't really want to go into it, but my only question is how much gambling was involved out there. In my experience, golf is the best sport by far to gamble on while you're playing. So tell me what was going on. What was the action like?
So I was so bad that unfortunately I can't really gamble on golf because I don't think we could set a handicap.
This is
So there,
disappointing.
it was disappointing. I mean, I was gambling on things while I was playing golf, just in life, but no, there was no. We were so focused on winning my team. That's what we were all about. Me and the boys, we were grinding hard, but it was a good time. I'm actually going to stick with golf. I think I expect to play more than once in the next 20 years. Uh, and we'll see. But no, it was a
That's
really
a
good
good
time.
plan.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Well, you missed out on a huge opportunity. I don't care how bad you are. There's always ways where you can
To
handicap it
hustle.
and get some action and definitely do the hustling.
And well, I'm playing the long con.
There
See,
you go.
everybody thinks I gave this whole story about how I play left-handed. Now I'm going to show you all that I'm actually just right-handed. No, not
Yeah,
true. Fake news.
delete.
But
Yeah, delete this reference. No one wants to see that. You got to play that long game.
yep, yep.
Nice. Well, so obviously you had a good time. Sounds like it was a lot of fun. Got together with a bunch of good guys, played some golf. Uh, Welcome back here. I know you missed this show more than anything
Of
else, so
course.
welcome back. Speaking of golf, obviously we got the API going on right now. I guess I don't want to get into too much from going into the tournament, but what were your kind of general thoughts on the field? And obviously there was a ton of talk yesterday about how the weather was going to affect the flights, the AM PM splits. What are you seeing today? And I guess what did you see yesterday? Really is the
Yeah.
question.
So I mean, going in, it was extremely polarizing with the AM having that edge, and it did come to fruition. There was about a stroke and a half. The crazy thing was when you look at the players, Rory was in the good wave. The next handful of top tier talents were all in the quote unquote bad wave. So it created such a weird situation on the DFS side, even in the betting side. Um, Now, Matt Every from the Clouds, first round leader, that killed a lot of Rory tickets. I mean, Gooch and Burns were certainly guys that people had. Rory killed them. Matt Every's probably going to get cut the way he's playing today. It's insane. So we'll see what it comes. It looks like the cut is certainly obviously going to be over par, but 3-4 over, uh,
Yeah,
definitely live.
yeah, it seems that way. It's
It's
so it's
playing
playing
hard.
pretty tough today, huh?
Oh, it's really playing. Now we'll see if I'll put it like this: if the afternoon is the harder side, watch out. I mean, I expect it to be pretty reasonable in terms of it's playing 2 shots over par right now. They better hope that stays around that, because if it gets pumped up from that, it's going to be pure carnage in the afternoon.
So you're telling me that Every's 8 over today is not good. He's not going to stay in the lead shooting eight
It's
over.
it's not the game plan, and I mean, from a betting perspective, though, this is mega wide open. If you're even maybe even 1 over, 2 over, if you haven't teed off, if you can post something today, hang a number, you're going to be right in it, because even a couple guys are in. Harris English is in at 5, but this is a long tournament. We'll see what Rory does. He's of course the wild card, but he's not. I'm the biggest Rory guy. I don't think of him as he's invincible in tough weather. I think of him in ideal conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're not going to get any value betting Rory now. It's
No.
basically even money to win the tournament. Is there anyone that you got your eye on, like in that afternoon wave today, who might be teeing off soon, who's got some
So
decent odds?
I mean, I looked pretty closely. I really like Bryson, he played today. He's got a couple holes left. He's +1. He's even on the day. I still don't mind him. He's 125 to 1. If he could get in the clubhouse around even, I don't think that's unreasonable. But if you're looking for someone with, a quote unquote better shot, I think that Fitzy is interesting. He's 33 to 1, where I'm looking. He's 2 under. He hasn't teed off. He's bred for tough conditions. He's not going to be affected by this. He's the type of guy who I actually would prefer tough conditions. Good putter, not aggressive off the tee. If he can just do what he did yesterday and post another red number, he's going to be only a couple shots off the lead going for the weekend.
Yeah, that's a good point. What are your thoughts on Rose? I know going into the tournament, you were pretty bullish on him. He shot one over yesterday. He's certainly not out of it, but he hasn't teed off today yet. Is he someone you think at least worth a flyer on?
Yeah, I mean, he's the price again, 125 to 1, I think is
pretty juicy.
Yeah, it's pretty generous. Now I took Rose almost blindly when I saw the odds before the tournament. I just thought it was too much for a guy of that caliber, even though he's been awful. He struck it really well. He lost 2 strokes putting yesterday, gained about 2 strokes with the ball striking. That's exactly what you want to see. But he's got to make a move today. I mean, he can't shoot over par again. That's going to put him in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So there are some guys. I think that this tournament, with the weather, Rory notwithstanding, is still wide open.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like the last few weeks have been really wide open. There's been some really fun Sundays, certainly getting past the cut today and then getting into the weekend, a lot of excitement. I don't know if you saw in the news that the PGA Tour, I mean, they've really embracing gambling and sports betting, partnering with another company to create more data, more betting content. It seems like the offerings are just going to increase exponentially. I mean, being able to live bet players, live bet shots. Is this going to be the best thing to happen to you or the worst thing?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't,
it's one or the other, I feel like.
It's just about prioritizing, what you want to do. I think some of it is going to be pure Like, I think if you drill down too much, there's not edge.
Yeah.
Maybe other people might argue like, no, because you want to churn things as much as possible. And the more you can do something, if you're plus EV, the better. I think that's a conversation worth having. So I'll pick my spots. I mean, I do a lot of that stuff already, in terms of betting matchups, 3 balls, certainly live betting. And I do think that the more the tour embraces it, the better it'll be for everybody. I know, in chat, we have plenty of people who talk about, betting golfers and whatnot. And I think it's an exciting avenue in addition to, of course, the DFS side of PGA.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no question. I mean, it is one of the more fun sports to bet, in my opinion, and DFS too. I mean, just the sweat is so different than any other sport when you're talking about a 4-day sweat, 2 days, and then the next 2 days. So I don't know. As somebody who's incredibly bullish just on the regulated industry in the US, I thought that was a really positive sign. Not one that surprised me, but the more we hear about partnerships and these sports really embracing sports betting, the better it's going to be for the consumer and just offering more bet types, more creativity, more growth. I mean, I just love that.
Oh, no doubt. And like I said, I think the main thing, no matter what it is just try to have the foundational pieces, because all these new things get invented and it's just like anything. The first thing people want to do is, I want to go play that. I want to go bet that. Like, before you do that, especially if you're not doing it for entertainment, you're trying to make some money, try to understand the nuances, try to understand what's the house take, what kind of things are these, is there an edge, not angle shoot it, but like, can I find some ways to kind of get in and do things that maybe they haven't thought of yet and be effective.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's understanding too, right? Like what's your end goal? Is this for entertainment, or are you really trying to get an edge and be plus EV and make money in the long term? And certainly that's what we're trying to do. And that message is consistent, I think, across the board here.
No doubt. I mean, listen, this tournament in particular, when the dust settles today, I definitely plan to have some guys overnight, some exposure on the weekend, because I think just with the weather, with the fluctuation and how hard this course can play, we're going to see a lot of movement. And then we'll see one thing on the tour that's different, and Chad, feel free to point out if you know how this works. I know weather's considered in daylight, but on Saturday, traditionally you go out in twosomes, and it's like an 8-hour window. So like the first guys off are done before the leaders tee off. But
Yeah.
sometimes they go off in threesomes on split tees. So it's like a kind of like a U. Like the worst guys tee off on 9 or on 10 while the leaders tee off. You want to make sure that you're understanding who's going out early if that's going to be an advantage, because you can take a guy in the middle of the pack sometimes and he gets the best course conditions, he can post the number. Or if they're going out in twosomes, that's a different dynamic.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's something that people maybe aren't considering. I know at the Genesis, that's what they were doing. They had the waves on 1 and 10. Even on the weekend, they were doing that, and they had threesomes instead of twosomes. A lot of it depends on the course and the weather, and there's a lot of factors there. But that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, because it's always naturally like, oh, I want to take this long shot. But one of their biggest advantages is that they can go out in different conditions, post 6 under, and then they have 10 hours to wait and hope the wind blows. If they're out there with the leaders, it's a much taller task to think that they can find a way to get back in a tournament that they're so far behind.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I was hoping that I could find some futures for the players next week. I actually haven't been able to see much. Is that something you're looking into? We obviously won't be on the air again until next Friday, and the tournament will have already started. So I was hoping we could at least talk about it for a minute, but I'm not having a lot of luck finding some futures here.
No, I haven't seen anything, and certainly it goes without saying we're going to have a ton of content both on the betting and DFS side, so stay tuned for that. But that's a course like a lot of these Florida courses. There's wind, potentially there's always water. Takes all different types of players have excelled there, so I kind of like that. It opens it up. I mean, we've seen Siwoo from the clouds. We've got Rory, Ricky. There's been a million types of winners there, and it's going to make for a good betting environment, no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, stay tuned. We're going to have a ton of content on the site. Was hoping we could at least look at some odds, but yeah, like I said, I don't see anything. So we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, we'll both be in Slack talking about it, and certainly this weekend will have an effect on those odds too, as everybody has that recency bias going into the tournament next weekend.
Oh, of course. I mean, listen,
standard.
Rory, of course, is going to be the favorite regardless, but if he wins this, my God. And then you have guys, Fleetwood is going to get cut here. Brooks is not playing well. Pendulum swings both ways. And, I tried to do that with Rose. When you're betting outrights, of course, you're hoping to hit a couple a year, depending on how, the odds that you're getting. So we'll see. A strong field like that, though, you're going to be able to get really good players at really quality odds, of course.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. So stay tuned for a lot of that. Super Tuesday was this week. You want to talk politics and betting on politics next?
And, our loyal viewers have now all exited. It was a good run.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Good. Yeah. Good for Super Tuesday.
Have you ever bet on politics? That's my only question.
Have I ever bet on politics? What do you think, honestly?
I mean, I have. I assume the answer is yes for you.
Yeah, I certainly have bet on politics. I bet on pretty much everything. Politics is something that. So there's a couple things that I've bet blindly in my life. Politics, I would say, is a little next level. Like I've done minor research and think that I have an edge here and there. Not something I do often, though. Yeah, I mean, listen, we started the show. Friend of the show, Jeffrey Cody. First comment in chat, it says North Florida.
You got to go there.
Got an emoji. That's the elephant in the room. I know the masses are all about North Florida. The boys went down last night in a awful. I had to wear the Ospreys sweatshirt today to show my respect to the team. Just a gutting loss last night in the semifinals.
Yeah, just brutal. We were talking about it. Pour one out, obviously, for them. Tough way to lose, too. Really painful kind of last 30 to 60 seconds, the way that game finished. But yeah, you were on that train way before anyone that I knew. And we've been talking about it for, I feel like 2 to 3 months already at this point. And, it's kind of a bummer that that's ended. I mean, I guess are they going to make the NIT? What do you think?
So I think they will make, they're going to make something, either the CBI or the CIT. Maybe they get in the NIT. That would be really cool. Listen, 22-8 against the spread. They were not going to cover last night. That was not what it was. Just they should not have lost that game in regulation. For people that don't know, I'll just go real quick. They were tied. They got a rebound with 20 seconds left, so they had the opportunity to basically hold for the last shot. And their best player, a senior, was wide open from three, and he shot it right with about 15 seconds left, and he missed. Lipscomb got the ball and took it down to no time and scored to basically win the game. I get it. You just, listen, he's the best. They take more threes than anyone in the entire country. He's their best 3-point shooter, but you just can't shoot it. You can't. You got to go to overtime.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't care how wide open that is. I think you just have to wait.
You have to.
If there's like 6 or 7 seconds, that's a different discussion. Like maybe you give yourself a chance for a rebound that way. But 15, you just can't do it.
No, you can't. And
not
listen,
tied.
If this was against Liberty, who's the strongest team in that conference, and they were on the road, I get it.
Yeah, that's different.
They're at home, and they are the better team. I don't think anyone would dispute that. You want to extend, like 100%. If they stop the game and ask both coaches, would you just take overtime? North Florida would say yes, and Lipscomb would say no, because that's just the way that works. Hell of a run. So yeah, they're all gone. That team is done. Seniors everywhere. But as we talked about, trying to identify teams early, it can be really effective, and that certainly was this year. It was a great run.
It really was a great run, yeah. Bummer. Well, we'll see them again. At least they'll have, like you said, they're going to get in some postseason tournament. Not the one that they wanted to get in, obviously, but we will have probably, one more, maybe 2 more chances to bet on them. Maybe a few more, depending.
Yeah, listen. And hey, it's not to say, Liberty is unbelievable. They won a game in the tournament last year.
That's right. That would have been a really tough game.
Yes, I don't know if they could have beaten them again. They split during the year, so we'll see. I really thought they'd get the opportunity to play, so they did not. That is one of the many conference tournament games going on, and I have an article already posted on the site. We're going to be revving up the college basketball content, of course, with the tournament approaching, and this is a great opportunity. I say it in the article. You're going to have brackets in 10 days. And you're going to be saying, who is this 15 seed? I've never heard of them. Or who's this 14 seed? Now's the time to check out those teams, get some information, and it really is going to pay dividends in a couple weeks.
Yeah. We had on this a few weeks ago, and it's such a great point. Like, this is the time. I mean, probably the time was a few weeks ago, but now you're still going to get an advantage on other people, because most people aren't going to be watching like Mountain West or like the Southern Conference tournament. Everybody's waiting for those big conference tournaments next week. And we'll talk about those next week too, but this is the week where you get a lot of the small conferences, the mid-majors, and you really can see them kind of in their own gym sometimes, but also, a different atmosphere playing in, like a lot of them play in Vegas or different arenas. And I don't know, to me, there's a lot of excitement when you look at these mid-major tournaments, even sometimes more than the big tournaments.
Oh, 100%. Because listen, these tournaments, every school knows they only get one bid. So you have to win the tournament. Like, the Big Ten tournament's great, but in the finals, if it's Maryland and Michigan State, they're jockeying for seeding, and it's important. But if the loser of these tournaments is just out, like you're going to the NCAA, or you're possibly not going anywhere. That's a lot to play for, and it's a cool atmosphere.
It is. So there's a bunch of tournaments going on right now. There's been a couple huge upsets. Were you watching like Wyoming, Nevada? That was a late game that I was watching. I'm sure you were fast asleep at that point, but Wyoming takes out Nevada in Vegas. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Wyoming was a team a couple years ago. They play at the highest altitude. I always like to target them at home. They were really good. Now they're just awful. They knocked off Nevada last night at Thomas and Mack. I was watching Austin Peay last night because they have a rematch with Murray State today.
That's a game that I was looking at that I want to talk to you about.
That's going to be an absolute battle. So there's a couple games, though. I'll rattle them off. I guess we can dive into it. We got from the clouds in chat, someone likes Niagara today.
Oh, I like it.
The Purple Eagles, I know literally nothing about them, against Canisius. 6 points, though. I like Boise State. They're also in the Mountain West, which you talked about on the other side. They get San Diego State. They knocked off
San Diego State had a tough. They almost blew that game. I mean, they won by 13, but they were down most of that game yesterday.
They're really not I mean, I think they were running hotter than they were for a while, how good they were, but they're not playing well. I mean, UNLV beat them. Boise State yesterday beat UNLV. It's a 9-point spread, 134 total. I think Boise State can hang in this game. Neutral floor. So that's one I have my eye on. On the other side of that conference, I don't know what to make of. I mean, Wyoming's 15.5-point underdog.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if they keep this going. I'm probably not going to touch the game, but it was crazy to see them win against Nevada.
It was. I wanted to try and find the money line for that Wyoming game. Have you seen one?
Tonight?
Yeah, tonight.
Plus 900 is on my screen.
Okay.
So, yeah, braver man than me if you touch that.
I don't know. I'm not feeling too confident, but
no, it's listen. And so for people that don't know, these conference tournaments traditionally, not every conference, but most, you just play. So like the first round sometimes it's just like a couple teams and the rest have buys. But if you make a run, you're playing like 3 or 4 days in a row, which is like so atypical. It's something we never see in college sports.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Like, you mentioned the Southern Conference starts. If one of these teams today made a run, they would have to play 4 straight days, which would be insane.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you see it both ways. I mean, I think in general it's a negative, but you do see these teams like get on a run, and like you can argue whether momentum is a real thing or not, but you have seen these teams come out of nowhere and win 4 games in 4 days.
It happens.
It's definitely happened, but it's such a task, such a tall order,
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can talk about it a lot of different ways. I will say for the smaller conferences in particular, it's not that they don't try during the regular season, but they know that this is really all that matters. Like, you want to have a high seed in this, but ultimately it's just about this tournament. So you do see some teams, like I said, that, I think they come out with a hard reset in a sense of like, it doesn't really matter. We're in the tournament and now we have to win games. We see some teams that kind of are middling during the year battle much better in the one and done scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your article, you reference, you talk about both games in the Southern today. You want to hit on, Samford VMI on the top of the bracket, and then Wofford against Citadel, a powerhouse team this year, in the bottom end of the bracket.
Another team that Citadel 0-18 in conference. That's hard to do.
It's not good.
It's not good. That's the kind of analysis that we bring. And honestly, it's perfect time to shout out EV Analytics, our sponsor of the show. That's kind of hard hitting stuff that we appreciate, but they have real tools to help you if you are getting serious about betting. So go check them out. They do sponsor the show. But I will say for this, listen, these type of games, I think you got to just drill down to it and try to find maybe how you think it flows. It's similar to Showdown NFL in my book. You want to tell a story. When I look at all these games, both of them, and I reference this in the articles, I think these teams want to push the tempo. Most of them shoot a ton of threes. They're not the best shooting teams, but they're going to attempt a lot, and they want to get up and down. And then you add in the situation in tournament settings. These teams never give up. They're fouling and fouling and fouling. I think it shades to the over in both of these games. It's a neutral court gym, which is never ideal. You hope that they can hit the ground running. But I think when these teams match up in the Southern Conference early, we're going to see some fireworks, actually. And I know these games are way off the board. But, if you're looking for a little action today, take a look at the totals in Citadel and Wofford and Samford and VMI. I think they're a little light in both regards.
Yeah, it's I was looking at the matchups for tomorrow more than today, but I do think you're right in that all these teams are going to come out firing. We know that. And the point you made about free throws, right? Like, nobody's giving up because, as we've just talked about, like, everybody is playing for this at-large bid. For this auto bid. Nobody's getting at large. I guess we could argue whether East Tennessee State, they have a chance at an at-large bid. They're the big favorite in the Southern Conference.
Yeah, we'll see them coming up. Obviously, they're resting.
Yeah.
They're very good. You'll hear me talk about them at length in the future. And the last thing I want to say, and go check out the article. It's free on the site. But Citadel and Wofford, they played twice during the year, and both games shot horrible from 3, basically in the 20s in terms of percentage. I don't see that happening a third time. Like, they're not great shooting teams, but they're not that bad. So I think that's another reason why I can shade maybe to this over, but we'll see. I mean, listen, it's nothing groundbreaking. These are good games, though, to keep an eye on teams that maybe can make a run, and maybe you'll see a couple in March.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Are there any other games today that you're looking at? There's a ton of conference tournaments today. I think, like you said in the article, Fridays usually aren't the best day in college basketball. Usually, it's a pretty small slate.
Yeah.
You'll get the Ivy League, you'll get a few other leagues that play Fridays, but we're in the madness now. Like there's so many games today. There's so many conference tournaments. Is there anything else you've got your eye on today?
So the one game I really do want to talk about, and again, I know this isn't people are not super familiar with these teams, one more than the other because of Ja Morant. Murray State and Austin Peay are real teams. They are teams that you would not want to see in a tournament setting. I wouldn't be stunned to see the winner of the Ohio Valley, if it's one of them, win a game in the tournament as an upset. They play. They split during the year. I like Austin Peay. That's a team that I've really had my eye on. I think next year for them, if Terry Taylor comes back, they're going to be really good. They have a legit I think he's a pro. Maybe that's a little strong, but he's a junior. They have Jordan Adams, who's a freshman. Those are their two big players. They absolutely, I mean, they played last night against Eastern Illinois and they won by 11, but it was 17-0 to start that game. They were in full control. I've never seen, it was bizarre. I watched that game and it was just 17-0. And I was just like, well, all right. That's one way to do it. So
good start.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do today. The spread is 1.5. Austin Peay is a slight dog. I think they win the game. I do. I think they knock off Murray State. I don't call that an upset, but by the books, it would be the slimmest of upsets.
Yeah, I see the same thing. 1.5. Maybe there's some twos out there, but that was one of the games that really caught my eye because I know you've talked about both these teams. I think we've talked about it either on the show or maybe off air that these are two legitimate teams, and they're squaring off tonight. Like you said, I mean, it's essentially a pick 'em. It's a 1.5 point line. So that was a game that I was really interested in talking about.
Yeah, that's a crowded. Belmont is also in there. People know Belmont. So you got three good teams for one bid. We'll see. I would love to see Austin Peay get it. It's going to be a tough road, no doubt about it. But they have the talent. Belmont's on the other side. They get Eastern Kentucky. I think they'll handle them pretty easily, and then they'll set up what'll be a very, very good game.
Are there any teams that are catching your eye, just I guess in the futures market in general, maybe not in the mid-major? I mean, obviously everybody's talking about Michigan State. They've kind of risen from the dead. If a number one team in the preseason can rise from the dead, it seems like they're the ones who have done it. Everybody wrote them off basically a month ago, and now here they are.
It's unbelievable. Like it is. The season's been so long that they've come full circle. Where they're now almost where they would have been. They just took one of the craziest routes of all time. I think for me, there's a couple teams with extreme firepower on the offensive side of the ball. Creighton comes to mind. They're one of the best scoring teams in the country. See them around 45-1. Listen, do I think they're going to win the tournament? No, obviously not. But do I think they're the type of team that if they get hot in a tournament setting, could they win some games? Definitely. And then you get into, and we'll talk about this. We certainly have some evergreen content about hedging and about how you can maybe lock in some profits, and that's about risk tolerance. But Creighton is a team at 45-1 that they do one thing outstanding. And when you're in a tournament, I think that's more important than being balanced in some ways, because you can kind of carry yourself, whether it's with a player or with one side of the ball.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming, that's for sure. But that's a really good point. And like I said, Michigan State, I've never seen such a more bizarre, full circle run here from number one to start the season to just disaster season. And now they're they're 15-1. They win it all. They're the fifth highest team based on the odds that I see. I mean, it's just been I guess you say Izzo kind of does this all the time, but it's been a really crazy season for them.
Bizarre. The Big Ten in general is just Maryland is a team that I've been really high on. I'm still high on them, and they've just been. I thought they finally got it together, and they've been terrible since then. They just got blown out at Rutgers. I don't know what to make of a lot of the teams in the Big Ten.
The Big Ten, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, is like you said. I mean, it's so hard to handicap from night to night. We were talking about the Illinois-Ohio State game last night. I think you and I both leaned Illinois. They don't cover. Basically, we're winning and or covering that entire game until about the last few minutes. I mean, that's just kind of how this goes in college.
It's going to be – and listen, the bracket when it comes out, of course, we will break it down in full. And, some of it's matchups. I think that
Absolutely.
If you get the right team and the right draw, they have, certain kryptonites. And all these teams up and down have faults. I mean, Kansas – I think most people would say is the best team and they can't shoot. So that's a problem in itself. So it's going to depend on who draws who and kind of who, this is not a series. It's a lot of variance and it's kind of a crapshoot in a lot of ways, but it's still fun to break down.
Yeah, for sure. One more team I want to ask you about because they got a big game tomorrow. A team that nobody, I don't think, is really talking about is Virginia. Obviously, they lose so many guys from the team last year who won it all, but they're kind of back, at least as far as playing defense and keeping teams under 55, 60 points. They beat Duke last week, which I don't know, maybe isn't the biggest accomplishment right now, but they get Louisville tomorrow. Is that a game you're eyeing at all? Certainly one that I just kind of am really curious about because Louisville is a team that I like too, and I know you do as well.
Yeah, I'm certainly eyeing the game. Virginia is playing better, and they're getting back to what they do. They definitely, in my opinion, don't have enough offense. People don't understand, I don't think, how good guys like Kyle Guy were offensively. Yeah. They didn't score a lot, but they're incredibly efficient. Virginia's offense, this is just a bad offense, and they have a great defense like they always do, but it's just different. Louisville is a team, though, that every time I think they're about to turn it on, they against Florida State, I thought they were primed to win a huge game on the road. Game got out of hand late, and they ended up losing, by I think it was like 15 plus, honestly, when it was all said and done. I would hope that Louisville could go into Virginia, into Charlottesville, and win this game. Spread should be pretty close. But these are the type of games that they should be winning, getting tuned up for their tourney run.
Yeah, that's for sure. But that's a big game tomorrow to keep an eye on. Anything else in college hoops you want to hit on? Next week we'll have a ton more to talk about too.
No, I mean, listen, like I said, I know some of these teams are not interesting, but you know what? Edge is edge. And I think a lot of times you can glean some information in some of these smaller conferences. In our Slack chat, like I said, if you have any questions, hop on in there for tourney time. You can use the promo code Awesemo odds, get in for 50% off on a week, try it out, see what you think. We'd love to have you for the tournament. And then the last thing, chat just informed me that Xander tried to make a 30-footer to make the cut and blew it by a long way, apparently. So good for Xander. The cut's going to be wild. But I know for you, I know we got a couple minutes left here. Are you eyeing some NBA stuff as we get closer to playoff time?
Always, I guess would be the short answer there. Definitely, I don't want to overreact to one game, and that's just silly in the NBA. But that Houston Clippers game last night was interesting, at least from the sense that the Clippers played pretty big for most of that game. Like Zubac played a ton of minutes and played really well. So that was something that I was really curious to see if Clippers were going to go small against Houston or play their bigger lineups, and they had a lot of success that way. And Houston's been on this insane run. And so for me, with a pretty decent sized Clippers future, it's one game. I don't want to make that much of it, but it seems like they're playing a little bit better. Paul George finally came back. Him and Kawhi just can never get on the floor together. I'm not going to be adding on to that future or anything like that, but I feel, I guess, about as good as I can with that Clippers future. I don't know. I've been hearing some talk like LeBron for MVP. I don't buy it. I think there's no way he can win that award. What do you think?
I mean, he should be the MVP every year, but that's a different discussion.
Wow. You're really trying to get me fired up.
Yeah, get this. I'm not going to even go down that wormhole. I will say that I did the NBA show yesterday morning with Adam, and we both were pretty adamant, and we were wrong that the Clippers would go small. Zubac would not have a role in that game. their ability to kind of chameleon is a problem for teams because they just have so many different ways to do it. And it's not just with Kawhi and Paul George; it's with these other guys. It's going to be fascinating. I mean, I know the West is a lot more competitive. In the East, everyone's question is, can anybody challenge Milwaukee? Of course, I think the answer to that is yes. By the way,
I do too.
There's a couple teams. Certainly, the Celtics come to mind immediately, but I don't know. This Clippers team is very difficult to break down, and that's a good thing for them and a bad thing for the rest of the league.
It is, and that game got out of hand, so it's hard to really look at the minute distribution and take anything from it. But Zubac and Harrell basically split the minutes. I mean, they both played 22 minutes. Again, it was such a blowout, so I don't really put a lot of stock into it. But like you're saying, and really my takeaway was, wow, like I was really impressed with how he played and just their ability to play a little bit bigger against Houston, which seems like nobody's been able to really crack that code the last month, basically since they traded Capella.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I respect what Houston's doing. I like that they're kind of just like, this is what we're going to do.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Try to stop it. But it's also much better to go for the Patriots MO, which is like, we will adapt to whatever style you play and exploit it.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I just looked at the futures odds and the Clippers odds are worse than when I got them, which is interesting to me, but not that I'm going to keep loading up, but I'm seeing plus 320 at the book that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I see around there. I mean, I haven't touched much in the NBA. Most of the things I bet were before the season. Little positions here and there, but I'm more focused on college. I do want to say just really quick, and we'll buck on out of here because I wasn't around. I don't believe. Did we talk about Wilder Fury post fight?
We have not. I would love to talk about it. How much
I
time?
just want to get 2 minutes. I just wanted to ask you what you thought of it because I watched it. I assume that you did as well.
Definitely.
And just of course, it was a massive disappointment for me. I was on Wilder. Don't wear that costume next time, guy. But what did you make of it?
Maybe that 45-pound costume wasn't the best idea for him to come out and take the slowest ring walk you've ever seen. But it was one of those fights, and I'm sure you've had this feeling where as soon as it started, I just had this bad feeling, and you could just tell that Fury was dominating this fight from essentially round one or maybe round two, you could argue. The way that he was leaning on Wilder was the biggest thing that stood out to me. That look, I'm not a boxer, but you don't realize the grind and kind of the toll that takes on somebody when someone is that much bigger and is constantly just leaning on you, just not punching, but literally leaning their weight on top of you. And Fury was doing that constantly. And I think that took a toll. You heard him talking about his legs were kind of shot from his get up and then kind of that component of it. But I thought Fury fought an incredible fight. He was so much faster than Wilder. His footwork is so much better. And a lot of people are saying that shot to the back of the head was what made the difference. And it seems like that is true. So maybe we give him some credit.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about this stuff. It looked off. I mean, I don't know if that was the costume. I don't know if that was the punch to the ear and his balance was off, but he just looked off. And now there's no doubt. Yeah. I don't think it really would have mattered because, as you mentioned, Fury came in with a plan, an effective plan, and Wilder came in with, I will just knock him out because that's what I do. Not great, Bob. I mean, I don't know. So we'll see. It was fascinating. I'm excited to see the third one. I would hope that he will come out with a better plan than that, though, if at all. It didn't seem like he had a plan. Now, maybe he did and it just went awry. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, there's so many factors that you can point to. I mean, it really seems like that shot to the ear / back of the head was really destructive and really took its toll on him. He wasn't doing well before that punch, so I think Fury was going to win that fight either way. But of course, Wilder always has that right hand in his back pocket. Maybe he could have got him down a couple times, but I just had that feeling pretty early on that this was a loser for me because I was on Wilder. You get that feeling sometimes. I feel like
Yeah, that's happening
basketball,
every
maybe that
day.
happens. Certain sports, like you just kind of get that feeling. You can tell, like, this is just not my night. Like Fury looked like the better fighter, was fighting a better fight. I don't know. Did you have that? Do you ever
Yeah,
get
I
that
mean,
feeling?
in boxing, I certainly didn't because I didn't know what to expect. I don't follow the sport. I bet that fight to bet it.
Yeah.
But I will say that I do think if you want to be one of this, and it's a tough skill to acquire, is trying to understand that the wins and the losses, just like in DFS, they come and go. But like if there was a couple games this week where results, I won some of them and I lost some of them. Some of the games that I won, I was just like, that is not how I plan. Like if I saw this game play out, I never would have made that bet. Not because of the score, just because that's not what I thought the teams would do. And then other games where it's just like, wow, that is I nailed exactly what I thought was going to happen, and the team shot horribly, or
Yeah.
something happened. So you certainly get that feeling where you're like, oh no, this is not what I thought I was going to see, and that's never a good feeling.
Yeah, no, that's never a good feeling. And like you said, he did already exercise his rematch clause in the fight, so they're going to do round three. There was talk maybe they're going to do a fight in between, but I think we'll have that fight within the next year or so. It would be my guess.
Yeah, it seems like it. And we got a couple super important things to get to in chat. My man Z, of course, LeBron's the MVP every year. That's right. He knows. He understands the show. Uh, and then we have Ross, who asked, "Who you got in the main UFC fight this weekend?" I don't even know who. I couldn't tell you the first thing, but I will tell you this: we had a team last night, Jordan. I know you know this. On the site, some new guys for the Awesemo team that broke down that in full. The video was great. I actually plan to watch it because I might play some MMA. So go check that out. It's posted on our YouTube, of course.
Yes, definitely check that out. I had heard and I knew that they were coming on, but I watched a little bit of the show, and like you, I need to watch it in full later. But I was incredibly impressed. Both of the guys have been in the industry. One of them is a former fighter, but the other guy had been
He
doing this
knows.
for like 10 plus years. I'm not the biggest UFC guy, but like you said, I like betting on it. I don't follow it like I follow boxing, but
Yeah, I don't know
I don't
what's
have
going
a real
on.
strong position yet on the fight this weekend. I know there's a couple good fights on the card, at least so I heard. Uh, I don't know that much about it, but I do want to
Okay.
bet on it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a resource you want to get to. But we appreciate you stopping in, my man. And if you can hit the like button, helps us out a ton. Much appreciated. And you're gonna be seeing my face and hopefully Jordan's. I'll wrangle him onto some shows a lot come tourney time. I hope everyone is excited because it's a great time of the year, and there's a ton of casuals. I mean, I know sports betting is against the book, but the brackets aren't, and there's a lot of things you can do with that as well.
Yeah, we still need to hash out some plans, but last year we did a couple shows the week of the tournament. We kind of did a bracket show. Stay tuned.
Great.
We're definitely going to do a lot of content. I mean, it's such a great time of year.
Yeah, we got a hard act to follow because if listen, there was ups and downs in that tournament, but it was Virginia the entire way, and Texas Tech in some. So it
Yeah,
was good. It was Purdue was the killer for me. We don't need to go down that path,
yeah,
but
that one was rough. Yeah, you and I were both on Virginia from the
yes,
get go last year. This year it's going to be a little bit harder, I think.
I oh man, that's what I was gonna say. Like last year, I know it's easy to say this now, but
Yeah,
I truly thought that Virginia was the team basically the entire year. I've I've gone to like 40 different teams in my mind this year, and I think they all might be wrong.
and I think this year all of those teams more than ever could like literally lose in the first round or win
Correct.
the tournament. Like the range of outcomes is insane this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's teams that I thought were live that are not going to make the tournament,
Yeah,
so that's not a good start.
yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, that is what about 2 weeks away till the actual tournament. So that is kind of crazy, but it will be here before we know it.
Oh yeah, I mean, this will be Friday of opening, the opening round in 2 weeks.
Usually
Yeah,
in Vegas. I don't think I'll be in Vegas this year. I think I'm gonna be staying local.
yeah. You're going to go to Vegas for the tournament?
I don't know. I usually do, but I think this year might be a little bit tough with some other issues and with the kids and all that. But people don't, you know, people don't care about that stuff. They just want to hear about gambling.
Well, that's the truth.
That's for sure. Just dropping dimes at the sports books. You know how it goes.
Printfest.
That's right.
Hashtag Printfest.
Amen.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, yes,
did it.
like we said, so much going on. Anything else this weekend? You checking out XFL, tennis? We got Indian Wells coming up next week.
Indian
I'm
Wells, yeah,
excited
right.
about that.
I will be. Haven't really looked at anything, and for me, this is where I do kind of go into like a bunker with, golf. Of course, is I do that for a living, but this is where March Madness really takes over for me, and we'll see. I'm excited. I think it's great to see a lot of the teams. And listen, the last thing I'll say, and then we'll get on out of here. I've watched a lot of bad basketball this year, a lot of teams, but now I feel like this is where I take advantage because those teams come to the limelight. Those games are more prevalent, and I've seen all these teams. I think that's an advantage. I really do. So it's going to be good. Hey, you're in Detroit and we got sports, but yeah, listen, sports betting is spreading, as Chat's pointing out. It's going to be here before you know it. And even if you're not a bettor, it's good to understand the principles because you can apply them to DFS. You can apply them to a lot of different things. It's really useful.
Yeah. And if it hasn't come to you yet, odds are it will in the next couple of years. Coming. Yeah. Like it's spreading as fast as maybe other things are spreading in this country, but we don't need to get into that.
Nice. Look at you. Put that on the bingo card. Could you get the coronavirus into the show?
Oh, always. We could always gamble on essentially anything. So
I'm at the hub, man. We got to stay safe in New York. There's stay safe out there, people. Wash your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Stay safe, everybody. Good luck this weekend. A lot to watch, bet on, enjoy. We'll be back next week with, I think, equally as much to talk about. So looking forward to that. Ben, have a great weekend. Any other crazy bets we got to talk about? Or are we good?
No, I think we're good. Like I said, appreciate everyone stopping in. Thanks to EV Analytics. If you have any questions, find us on Twitter, find us in Slack. Going to be a great week ahead. We'll talk to you guys next Friday.